Welcome to the first ever session of Japanese with Houghton and Mackay. We're going to be looking at the very basic sentences, tenses, and we're going to go slightly advanced later on with how to give possession of a noun to a person. This is quite fun and you'll be surprised at how fast you learn. So let's get straight into it. There's a whiteboard in play here. So the first port of call, very important, is to make sure that you understand and can pronounce your vowels correctly. As with English, there are 5, and we'll go through them in turn. So in Japanese, we don't say a, we say a. And if you want to remember the sound, the best word is the one from apple. The second word is E from India. It's not I. We are saying E from now on. And the third one, a little bit tricky. It's you. We're not saying you, we're saying u. And probably the best word is the u sound in umbrella. If you can find a better one, let me know and I can use it in future presentations. Let me know in the comments. And E becomes e, and echo is probably the best word to use there. And finally, we can use o, and the sound we're looking for is Oscar. So the o from Oscar. Let's go through those right now. So a is apple, E for India, u as in umbrella, e for echo, and o for Oscar. So here's a trick. A lot of people miss this trick out when they're first learning the language. First of all, let's put some common words down. So they are words which pretty much everyone's come across at some point, especially if you're a traditional English speaker. We have them in our language. It's just that we say them very differently. Now, here's the trick. Every single Japanese word is split by a syllable that ends with a vowel. And you can see me just splitting them up now into those very same parts. Now, again, if you can get your vowel sounds correct, we can make sure that we sound correct to Japanese people. And it can be the case if you don't get your vowel sounds correct at all, you can be using absolute perfect Japanese and they still sometimes won't understand you. So let's have a look at these then. So you, as I said, you break them down with the vowels, and you know that a syllable is there because it ends with a vowel. So sushi becomes su. Su. Remember the u sound. Sushi. I. Sushi. And to. We're not saying toe or tor as we do in English. Toyota. Toyota. And it is kimono. And then we're saying Tanaka. Tanaka. Split them up as we say like this. Tanaka, kimono, Toyota, sushi. There we go. So let me just get rid of these then. We can use these words later on. I'll just remove those from the board a second. So there's our base words. We're going to be using those in this session right now. So let's have a couple more words. We're going to be needing these as well. Watashi. Watashi means me or I. And the opposite to that obviously is anata. And I won't split them up anymore. Let's make it slightly more advanced by doing that. Anata. So that is you. So there's the opposite. So we don't have a sentence yet. We need a tense in order to make a sentence. So keep those in mind, what we have there. What do we have so far? We have basic pronunciation and we have a couple of words to go with. Now, let's have some tenses. The word for is in Japanese is des. the word for was is deshita. You will notice it's a very slightly silent I. So that is was. Dewa arimasen. That means is not. Can you guess what the last one will be based on the tenses so far? Dewa is still in play. Arimasen deshita. It's quite long. It is quite long. So that is was not. Remember your sounds. So e and the u and the e instead of I. We're not saying e as in the letter E. It's the I becomes an e sound. And the a for apple. Deshita. Des. Dewa arimasen. Dewa arimasen deshita. So now let's go slightly more advanced. Let's start to put this sentence together. We have our nouns. We have a couple of nouns to go on. We have 4 nouns. Sushi. Des. That now means sushi. Des means it is sushi. It is hard for people to understand whom speak English because des is equivalent to 2 words. It is. So don't get confused with those words and having to translate literally 2 words. It simply means present tense. So des, and now let's say sushi deshita. It was sushi. And then you can look at the other 2, which is sushi dewa arimasen. It is not sushi. And sushi dewa arimasen deshita. Slightly more advanced. You can pause the tape if this is getting too much. How do I turn all of those statements into a question? Very simple. In Japanese, the question mark equals ka. So if I wanted to turn these into questions, all I do, let's go back to these last 2 short sentences and put a ka on the end. So now we have sushi desu ka? Is it sushi? Sushi deshita ka? Was it sushi? And that's all you do. Of course, you can look at the other 2 tenses and mix and match as you wish. It's a very cognitive language. It snaps together very nicely. So remember what we had earlier. We have those 2 words, those 2 nouns to do with me and you. So let's start to use those, remembering what they are. Watashi is I or me, and anata is you. Let's start to put those together in a sentence. We need one more thing before we can, because it won't make sense otherwise. If I don't use this, then it will make no sense at all, because I'm not really giving possession of an object to a person. So let's give possession by apostrophe s to a person. So anata no sushi desu. It is your sushi. Anata no sushi. So what we have is just there, des. If you go back to where I've just split it up, sushi des. Oh, I've spelt it wrong. My apologies. There we go. Sushi des. It is sushi. And then if I say anata no, these 2 words at the beginning, anata no, your, and then we say sushi. And similarly, if you want to miss des off, just to make it slightly easier, anata no sushi, your sushi is. It is so that it is your sushi. The tense just goes on to the end to tell you where we are at in the time. Similarly, we can get rid of that and say deshita, and then we can put a question on the end. Anata no sushi deshita ka? Was that your sushi? Anata no sushi desu ka? Is that your sushi? Let's look at the other word with watashi. Watashi no sushi desu ka? Is it my sushi? And then we can advance it. Watashi no sushi de wa arimasen deshita ka? Was it not my sushi? That gets long very quick. But I promise you, if you practice the sounds, you will be able to reel them off in no time. Just try and picture in your mind the order that things go in. Quick rule, tenses 99.9% go at the end. When you get onto slang language, for example, things swap up a little bit and so on and so on. If you're learning Japanese, I recommend you do not start with manga, because that can get very complicated very quickly. The grammar is very, very complicated in manga or in Japanese films. So start with this polite tense that we're using here. So that concludes the first session. I hope you have enjoyed it greatly. And we will come back next week and do a little bit more. I hope you enjoyed it. Do join me on Thursdays, usually at 8 p.m, over on this channel or the Facebook channel, and we'll get slightly more advanced. Houghton and Mackay, there's a magazine online also, and we do live broadcasts with other things as well. If you check out the broadcasting page, there's live yoga, discussions on popular subjects on Sundays, and lots of other things. Thank you very much for attending. Let me know what you thought of it, and I will see you next time.